You're listening to the Artist King podcast.
This is DTM of DeltaTangoMike.com, and this is the Artist King podcast, episode 78. Please download the Artist King podcast in your favorite platform and listen anytime. We would like to hear your opinions and suggestions, so please direct your comments to dtm@artistking.org. The Artist King podcast is available on iTunes, Spreaker.com, Stitcher Radio, and ArtistKingArchive.com. This week, our art business advice comes from L of Post Film Design, and this advice applies to all entrepreneurs, artists, designers, cartoonists, all of us. Check out Post Film online and on social medias at Post Film Design. The Artist King podcast is made possible by the support of our sponsors. You can find them on the partners page at artistking.org, and they include the law offices of Deborah Gonzalez Esquire, VelocityScreenprint.net, RevolveSkate.com, O-Hub at Giant, Southside Sickest, Mex Manny Beats, The Biz Garage, Supernova South, and Sharpie Slam 2015. The biggest, baddest art event of 2015 is coming to the Biltmore Hotel Wednesday, October 7th, 6 to 9 p.m. 6 teams go toe-to-toe and only one will be crowned ATL Supreme Champ. Tickets now available at supernovasouth.org. Now on to our art business advice with L of Post Film Design.
I'm Elizabeth Atkins, and I am the owner and main brand strategist for Post Film Design. And I guess we're going to be talking about funding today. What a horrible question. Why did I even make myself talk about funding? I mean, yeah, essentially everything you do in your business costs money or time, which essentially equates to money. Mm-hmm. So you need to understand like how long it takes you to execute a project, how long it takes you to market, what's the value of your time, and you've got to assign a dollar value to that and make sure you have enough funding to get you through your first at least 6 months to hopefully a year of your business. Because you can't, when you're doing a new business, it's hard to expect that you're going to be a superstar your first year. You've got a lot of learning to do. There's a lot of stuff that, especially if you've never run a business before, there's a lot of learning curve there. So great to have funding. Funding.
So what kind of funding are we looking at? Are we talking about investment funding? Are we talking about money that comes out of your regular job funding?
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of business you're running and what industry you're going to be in. If you're like us and you're a creative entrepreneur, no one's going to be like angel investing in your you don't have an app, you don't have a home on the web, so you're a service. You got to come up with funding either by begging a family member or going to a bank or just taking it from a day job and saving it as hard as you possibly can. Those are the realistic options.
Finding a customer,
right? Or hopefully finding enough that'll pay you.
Yeah.
But it's all about like saving up as much money as you can. So if you're eventually getting into a period where there's no clients, what would you do if you had no, you have to have something to keep your lights on. So
do you think that knowing those numbers start with knowing what your spending habits are, how much money you need to live and so on?
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. And I even say, if it's even possible to get your expenses down to the very minimum before you take a leap into being an entrepreneur, you should absolutely do that. Examining okay, I spend $25 a month or even a week or whatever on fancy coffee, which I don't need. That's a huge part of being a responsible business owner is the business essentially comes first. How do I keep the business running? And unfortunately, a lot of us end up paying ourselves second. But if you can avoid doing that, then you absolutely should. And that comes down to being all right, what am I really spending money on? Can I downsize or is this cool? Yeah.
And when you charge your customers, you've done the math to figure out how much your work is worth.
Yeah. Hopefully.
And how much you need to get paid.
Trial and error there.
Sure.
Yeah, it depends on the market that you're talking to as well and what service you have. There's always going to be a situation where someone's not going to value what you do if you're a creative person versus, maybe a corporation could pay you oodles of money because they've got tons of it to spend. It just depends on where you're trying to work your angle, But yeah, you should know what you're worth for sure. That's a big, huge part of keeping your funding up so you don't go into ramen noodle territory.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to. Like
yeah, it happens.
Yeah, if
Nothing,
you really
no
believe,
shame.
Yeah, you have to believe in it for real. To jump in and then go through it, suffer through it.
Yeah, beans and rice. You should have we should do a cookbook. We should get together and do a broke person cookbook. Like ramen salad, like get chili. You get really inventive. Potatoes of all varieties. You know, yeah. Sometimes you just gotta. That's part of the process. You gotta love the journey. But if you can avoid suffering, by all means,
right.
Please avoid suffering.
Send us feedback to dtm@artistking.org and subscribe to the Artist King podcast on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spreaker.com, or ArtistKingArchive.com. This has been your Artist King podcast, and I am DTM of DeltaTangoMike.com, telling you to get out and learn so you can earn. Let go of the starving artist title and move into the thriving artist art life. See you next week.